Welcome to the Equity.Guru Investor Roundtable. You know, we're all fans of something, but are we fans of fans? That's the question for today. I'm Bobby. That's Galen. He's in the basement. He's making today something special for all of us.
Blueberry caramel cookies.
Woo! Blueberry caramel cookies. Can't wait to get on top of that stuff. That's looks like Chris is already having some blueberry caramel cookies. And it's
chicken.
Joseph upstairs. Tastes like chicken. We're talking about fans. Fans on the Canadian exchange. That would be FansUnite, based in Vancouver, British Columbia. Darius Egdami is the president, and Scotty Burton is the CEO. Might just be Scott. I don't know if he likes to be called Scotty. I'm going to call him Scotty anyway. And Chris is going to start us off talking about fans.
Sure. All right. Before we do, I'm just going to acknowledge the conflict that I have in talking about FansUnite, because CEO Scott Burton actually shares with me the role of director of Altrincham FC, a football club in England that we both bought into during COVID, because what's better than buying into a football club when the plague is upon you? So I consider Scott a good guy, a business associate, a friend, and someone who's been a client of Equity.Guru in the past. All of that laid out. I note that the company, which is in the sports betting business, providing B2C tools for companies that are in that game, and also having various subsidiaries in various places around the world that are actively engaging in sports betting, such as McBookie in Scotland. They just recently got their Ontario gaming license that will allow them to engage in that market. Hurry up, BC, get with it. But here's the interesting thing about it. And, you know, anyone who's ever looked at Equity.Guru for any length of time knows that we like to talk about the good. We also like to talk about the stuff that's not so good, or that people are talking about negatively. Annual financials came out for FansUnite today, and the headline on Stockwatch is FansUnite loses 17 million in 2021. Now, that's a lot of money. And a lot of people would see that headline and say, sell, sell, sell. Here's the thing. The devil is always in the details with financials, and you've really got to sort of look in there and see what goes beyond the headline. So, I'm looking into the last year, and FansUnite made 5.6 million in revenue in 2021, as compared to 1.5 the year before when we started first talking about them, which is an increase of 260%. Now, that's not a lot of revenue when you compare it to the loss. But here's the thing. FansUnite has been buying shit. They've been buying assets. They've been buying their way into markets. They've got themselves into, as we mentioned, Ontario. They've got an LOI for a group out of Wales in Dragon Bet. They've established themselves with McBookie in Scotland previously. They're also going into Louisiana in the online sports betting market there, and Maryland. Their American affiliate was approved for customer acquisition services in Maryland recently. So they're actually, you look at the loss includes the amount of money that they're actually spending on buying these assets and then lobbying local governments to get them approved in various places, developing those assets, building out their software options, and becoming a genuinely interesting company. Now, here's the thing that's really interesting to me, and I dare anyone to say it isn't. One, they've raised $38 million in cash over the last year plus, which is a lot of cash. Even if you've lost 17 million over 1 year, it's a buttload of cash right now. In the first quarter of 2022, in unaudited financials, so, this could change, but they're confident enough that they've announced that they made unaudited revenue of over $9 million in that quarter. Now, the 17 million was a loss over the course of a year. The 5 million in revenue was revenue over the course of a year. If I'm reading this right, in the subsequent quarter, this company did almost 200% more revenue in one quarter than it did in the entire previous year. That's interesting, and it means that loss, as much as there's a lot of aspects in that loss that are non-cash based, that they're related to buying things, they're related to growing things. That loss is likely to get a real dent put in it by revenues if those unaudited first quarter revenues are any indication of what's to come for the next couple. Obviously, the companies, had struggles with COVID like everybody else did. There's a lot of money involved in just going public. There's also a lot of money involved in going and getting licenses in various jurisdictions around the world. But the company's done it. And to me, these are positive financials, despite the headline, which is going to make people think twice. If you dig into it, this is a really positive state of affairs for FansUnite. And conflicts notwithstanding, you can point to those conflicts and say, I'm in the bag from a buddy. Man, honestly, I think the numbers speak for themselves. So for me, I'm looking at the chart right now where the company is at a low. You can buy this company for less money than you could have at any other point in its existence, but it's progressed, right? It's gone forward and it's put all these things together, and it is, to mine, worth way more than it has been at any point of its existence. In reality, it's just that you get to buy it at a cut price rate. So for me, I'm looking at my current cash position, of which my cash position is heavy because the markets have been not so great, and thinking maybe it's time to take a position in Fans once again. I did really well at it the first time around. I think maybe it's time to jump in again, because without that headline, this would have been a how's your father quarterly financials that people would be talking about far and wide.
Right there at 26 cents as we record, which is probably less than 12 hours. No, it's not true. 18 hours. 18 hours.
$70 million market cap it's sitting on, which to me it's fair. This company has at various points been what I would say is overvalued for where it was at the time that it was overvalued. But right now, it's totally swung that around to be an undervalued, very intricate little combination of assets that I think is, if you're in the Ontario sports betting market, you're in the Canadian sports betting market in a big way.
You've looked at this company before, Joseph. What are your feelings as you hear what Chris had to say?
Well, my feelings for the most part correspond to what I was feeling back when I wrote the story a few months back. It's like I like what this company's doing. I understand. I mean, it's kind of a growth year. They're making they're spending some money and they're picking up some assets, and they're trying to do what they can to build up that revenue stream so they can bring in the big money somewhere down the line. What I like, what they've been doing is they've been getting their product out to the big name sectors. Like they're involved in March Madness, and they're trying to onboard people for their sports betting app by the Super Bowl. And I think that is a very positive direction to reach out and try to, extend, try to, work to grow their assets, I suppose. Sorry, I don't have all the voice training that Galen does, so I'm just trying to spit it out as best I can. That's more or less where I'm sitting right now. Is I like what
noises.
La 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 la. Okay, go ahead, Galen.
Rubber baby buggy bumpers. All right, now.
Seashells.
By the seashore. Now, FansUnite is an interesting proposition. As Chris said, it began its life as an overvalued entity, mostly because market fervor. Damn the retail investor. I love you guys to death, but sometimes you really get caught up in a storm. And it happened to everybody. It happened to cannabis. Cannabis still hasn't recovered from it. Anybody that comes onto the market's brand new. They figure, it's all happening now. Let's just buy in. And honestly, there's not been a real good estimation of company values as they come out of the gate. So unlike many in the cannabis sector, and unlike many of the companies that get overvalued as they come onto the market, as Chris said, FansUnite has actually managed to turn that ship around and make it into an undervalued position. It's made all the right moves. It's pulled into active sectors. Its Mick Bookie is doing wonderfully in Scotland. It keeps making great acquisitions. And the guys that are behind it really understand the fabric of their sector. So they know where they're moving. It's not just some guys that, like all of a sudden it was a mining company and decided to get into sports betting. These guys knew what they wanted. They went out, they got it, and they kept following that mandate. And now it's beginning to pay off. They've had a hard year in terms of just the way the markets have been, COVID, all that kind of lovely stuff. And yes, they've been building their brand and building their business, and that costs money. And short-term investors are people that don't really want to take a look at the books and just want to be caught up by memes. Look at that and go, well, they're a failing proposition. No, they're building the foundation. And right now we're beginning to see the signs of that work coming into fruition. A huge amount of trading today in terms of volume. It was almost 1 million shares thrown back and forth. So that's a pretty liquid position. People are interested in this stock. They're looking at it. This is active. This is an active piece. And as Chris said, damn that headline. If it had come out any differently, it would have painted the picture as it should have been, which means we've put a lot of capital outlay into the business. We've invested. We've made our moves. Now look what's happening in the first month of the year that we're past this investment period, right? And as he said, if I read correctly,
That's a big quarter.
Yeah, they beat out their yearly revenue by 200% in the first quarter. So I mean, this is great signs, especially if they're not going to have that much capital outlay again throughout this year. They might, who knows? They could still build, but I mean, if not. They're going to dwarf their expenditures, and look at that. All of a sudden, it's a grabbing money hand over fist proposition. And why the hell weren't you on to begin with? So, I myself, even though I'm not big in the sector, just because I'm not really a big bettor, so it's not a sector that interests me. I understand its value, but I also understand where these guys sit in that picture, and I think they're actually a really good proposition. Because there's a lot of guys out there with the vapor proposition and the vapor software and the vapor platform saying that they're going to win the world of sports betting, and they really haven't done much other than talk to you. These guys have actually built an empire.
All right. We've looked at charts. We've heard the financials. Now we decide how much of my cash is going out the door. You each have $7,500 to play with. Chris Perry.
So one thing that should be mentioned as a side note from the financials that came out today is that the company, FansUnite, has announced a normal course issuer bid that will allow them to reclaim up to 5% of the issued and outstanding shares over the next 12 months. In essence, a buyback. The reason for that is flush with cash, cheap stock. They don't believe that currently the stock is priced where it should be for what they've built. So they're going to put their money where their mouth is and start using some of their cash to gobble it up, which means tighter amount of a tighter share structure for retail investors. It means your shares are likely to rise, or at least any sort of downward shift might be arrested a little bit. The company can go out at any time and just say, we are going to buy 1 million shares, and away it goes. So this is a good, confident move by the company to say, hey, look, we don't really give a shit if you don't value us properly. We value us properly, and we've got enough cash on hand that we can make it what we think is a smart decision and to buy our own damn stock if you want. I like that. I think that's confident, and I think that the next financials that come out, which would be the Q1 audited financials, if they are accurately reflected by the unaudited mentions in this one, that's going to be a full-on slobber knocker of a financial release. So I like what they're doing. They're not a client. So as much as we mentioned all the conflicts that we have had in relationships with this company before, they're not currently a client. We're only talking about them because, one, every time I turn on the fucking TV, all I see is ads for sports betting groups. One. So I know that there's a lot of money going into growth in that space. I don't mind these guys spending a bit of theirs to keep up. Two, in the early days of European sports betting companies, you could count the number of companies that weren't owned by Russian oligarchs on one hand. And that'd be one hand, including the one that got chopped off in the knife game at the oligarch table. Listen, I think now with war in Ukraine, Russian money is going to come under real pressure to get the hell out. And that's going to open up a lot of opportunities, I think, in sports betting. And I think that that's going to find its way down to companies like FansUnite. So for me, at a low, with a stock that's turning a corner, with a company that's going to put its own money where its mouth is and start buying stock because F you, it's too cheap. I think this is where you put your 7,500 and start going on a ride.
You're throwing it all down?
Whole thing. And it ain't going to get any cheaper. And if it does, well, okay, great. Find another 7,500. But this is a good price to get in. It is a historic low. It appears to be turning a corner if you're looking at it from a chart perspective. They're doing all the right things. They've announced a significant increase in revenue. They're opening up new markets. The companies that are in Ontario are like, Betway, Sports Interaction, like they're massive companies. Bloody Trailer Park Boys are on every ad on DAZN trying to tell people that they'll soon be betting in Ontario. And the winds all look like they're blowing in the right direction. Get the fucking spinnaker out and let's go.
You can tell you're Australian because you count to 2 with your thumb.
Also, Altrincham won again today. So no, they didn't. They drew. But, undefeated in 3 games.
I believe the CEO is at that match.
He's there. Yeah.
1, 2. You can tell. Now, you're North American, Joseph, so you count like this, right?
1, 2, 3.
Right, 1, 2, 3.
Right.
Instead of 1, 2. These Aussies and these Brits. All right,
Yeah.
What do we got for you there, Joseph? How much? You joining the party?
If I'm sitting at the poker table and someone pushes their stake all in, I'm usually going, my pair of threes isn't going to cut it. I'm out. In this case, I don't think we have a pair of threes, but it always seems like I do when I'm sitting at a poker table and someone pushes all in.
Yeah, it happens.
In this case, I think we're going to sit on a solid 2 pair, but I'm not going to do that unless I'm sitting on unless I had a full house or higher. And even then, I get a little itchy. Like I don't like the prospect of losing it. I like what I see here. I'm actually going to put in a lot more money than I usually do for these sorts of companies. I'm generally a bit more conservative, but I like the licenses. I like the development. I like the build out. I like the fact of the rollbacks coming up. I like
not rollbacks, buybacks.
Buybacks. Sorry. Oh wow, that's a bit different. Yeah,
It's a little different.
Thanks for jumping on that. What I'm going to say is I'm going to go with $3,500.
Okay. 3,500 bones. Is that a slobber knocker?
What?
Yeah, there's some slobber.
All right, Galen, you're last.
All right.
But not least.
Yes, well, thank you. All right, so basically...
Dude, you're making caramel blueberry cookies. You're in first place.
Oh, well, thanks.
And also chicken.
Yeah, see, there you go. Now, company is a great prospect in terms of stock value. And if you take a look at the charts, which we did a little earlier, we've seen that it's been sort of ranging over the last little while, admittedly on a downward trend, but not that much of a downward trend. And if you consider the assets that they have, deals that they've made, the revenue they've brought in, and also the revenue they are now bringing in, I don't think it's going to get any lower, if at all. It might, so don't take my word for it, but I don't think so. It doesn't show any signs that it should. And as Chris said, with the company themselves going, fuck you, we're going to buy our own stock, then you know what? It's going to head up. And in this case, for me, I think there's nothing but upside, at least at this point in time. I am a long-term. I don't know how the picture will be 6 years, 10 years down the road, but I think this is good enough that it'll give me at least a 3-year stretch of good times. This is my estimation. Please contact an investment professional to find out otherwise if you like.
Some forward statements here, man.
Yeah, look at me go.
This is big.
Just call me Buffett. All right, now I think please don't call me Elon. I think there's a longer trend here of upside that can be had by people that are more comfortable with a long-term prospect. So I'm actually going to throw 7,500 in. I'm going to drop it all, man. Unzipping the person and dump it on the table. There it goes.
Laying that cash down. Oh, sorry.
That's a slobber knocker.
There you go.
There you are.
Hey, okay, well, we were $4,000 away from bell. Sorry, no bell for you. No bell for you. Pretty close.
I like it.
We almost rang the bell, Joseph. All right, that's 7,500 from Tuya, 3,500 for the conservative guy in the middle. It looks like he should be playing the bagpipes right now. He's got that Scottish thing working. Right
See,
now.
there you go.
That's because he bets with Mick Bookie.
Doing a caber toss.
Don't forget about fans. We haven't thrown out the symbol in a while. It's fans on the Canadian exchange. Difficult to forget. Fans.
And I will say this to our friend Scott. Hey, if you renew your contract, I'll throw half of it back into the next Altrincham financing.
What? All right, you better send him this link.
We'll buy a new stand together.
You can read my profile on this company, which is going to read more like a right winger on the Canucks than it is a deep dive on the site. You can also check out Scotty Baby talking with a couple of our fantastic hosts about the FansUnite company.
I think Rob's a perfect voice for this particular subject because he's right thick in that sports, and that's what this is all about.
I'm definitely
sports.
thick.
It's sports.
We can't guarantee anything that we've told you. We also can't guarantee that past performance will bring about future results or any of the wonderful things that we've said will come true because, well, we just can't. Can't guarantee a damn thing. So make sure you do your own homework, your own research, and we wish you the best with fans on the Canadian exchange. That would be FansUnite out of Vancouver, Scott Burton, and Darius and Dami. And until we see you again for Joseph and Joseph and Chris and the man making cookies.
Yep.
I'm Bobby. We'll see you next time. Equity.Guru Investor Roundtable.
Later.
Spinning her up.